Good afternoon and welcome everybody to the untrammeled wild that is the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. 3.5 million hectares of great African wilderness, 2.2 million of which is the Kruger National Park, 60,000 of which is the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, and our little piece of 1,500 hectares that we sit on here is called Djuma, and we traverse onto Arathusa. My name is James Hendry. Behind the camera today we have Andrew, who looks a little bit like Freddie Mercury, although he is dressed like a pirate today for some reason, so we'll call him from the crow's nest this afternoon. In the control room we have the inimitable Eugene and the sultry tones of Nicky Austin. I think Phil's also in there knocking about doing something. And then on the other vehicle we have the irascible Brent Leo Smith and the incredibly handsome Scott Dyson, and they will be finding things off in the east. We are in the west. We're in the far east of the reserve at the moment, and our plan today is to cover a bit of the boundary to see if anything's come across during the course of the morning and the afternoon. This morning, not a huge amount was going on in terms of the big game. We saw a lot of great little stuff. And I know that the Nkuhuma Pride is north of us. There was also that pack of wild dogs with a heavily pregnant female the other day. They also went north of us. So we're just checking the northern boundary to see whether they haven't crossed in and whether they won't delight us this afternoon. Please remember, we love your questions, we love your comments, we love anything you have to say about us, well, mostly. And if you'd like to contribute in any way, please send us a Twitter message, #SafariLive, or email us on questions@WildEarthTV. This morning I was trying desperately to find a tree this is the tree here. And I found out something quite special about this tree, and that is apparently that it is supposed to cure baldness. Now, there is a reason that most of you have never seen me without a hat on, and that is because I unfortunately have started to lose the hair on the top of my head, and I've tried all manner of weird things. I've tried all sorts of expensive shampoos which guarantee to help me. I have taken all sorts of strange medicines, and I've done all sorts of other things, most of which I couldn't repeat on camera, and none of them have in fact helped me to regrow the losses of the hairs on my head. My body continues to get hairier by the day, but unfortunately my head remains in a state of abject balding. So this is the jacket plum tree, Papia capensis, and amongst its uses as a lubricant for rifles, this is the fruit. Apparently the oil of the fruit or the leaves can be used to cure baldness. So what I'm going to do is crush these up in my hand, and then, without displaying my balding head, which will probably blind you wherever you are, I'm going to put it under my hat and hope that by the end of drive I too will have the head of hair that Scott Dyson boasts. I'm very jealous of Scott's head of hair, and hopefully by the end of this drive I will have the same head of hair. Right, we're going to press on. I'm going to try and get off from my perch here without ripping my ear off on this earpiece that Eugene has rigged up for us. So far so good. Good, yes, still attached. That is great news. And we're going to head off down the northern boundary and see what has come in. Here we go. I can feel my hair starting to grow already. It's a miracle. And just to remind you, while we drive gently down this road, tonight there is a fireside chat from 5:30, where Brent, Scott and I will thrill you with stories of the week, and we'd love your contributions and questions for that too. So think about things you might want to say to us or might want to ask us while we sit in front of the fire, and that'll be for half an hour from 5:30 Central African time to 6. So wherever you find yourself in the world, I hope you'll be able to join us for that. It's been a pretty chilly-ish day. I mean, there's still a cool breeze blowing in. It's apparently 22 degrees centigrade, which is about 71 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not particular. It doesn't sound cold, but both Andrew and I have got jerseys on because of a chilly breeze that's blowing through here. I find often the weather is the weather reports of water hole to see if anything has come down to drink. It hasn't been a very hot day, so it's unlikely that there will be teeming herds fighting over the water. Use that as a starting point. I believe that my signal is not fantastic, so if you lose us, I'm sorry about that. I told you earlier today, our man Eugene in the back office there works frantically day and night to try and improve signals. In case you don't know, and in case you knew, this is the only place you can watch live Safari. And the technology.
Welcome everyone on the Sunset Safari. My name's Brent. I got Scotty D on camera with me today. Hope you guys are ready for an exciting journey through the wilderness today. At the moment, we are trying to find any tracks of Shadow and Sindile. We had a track of a female leopard crossing out, but it's possible she might have left that young male again in this area. So we're checking around. If there's some new viewers out there, welcome, and also to all our old viewers, nice to have you with us on the Sunset Safari. We also are interactive, so you are able to ask us questions about what we're seeing in the bush while we move through the bush, or when we're at a specific sighting. And you can do that by emailing us at questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. It's a beautiful, beautiful winter's day. A little bit of cloud up and around, but nothing too much. Still a bit chilly. We've got our jerseys on, but that's because the cloud is hiding the sun from us at the moment. But very, very still, very little. So we can hear one bird, or a couple of birds, but not much else happening. So we're going to keep checking through this area. Hopefully we can find some tracks of that young male Sindile. Other than that, we'll have to see what's around the next corner. Sorry about that, I didn't realize that you'd had to jump from James. Sorry about that, he just went through a bad signal area. So you're stuck with Scotty and myself for the next little bit, but don't worry, we'll be back with James a little bit later. So we're just checking this area very, very carefully. For those of you new, will notice that I often put my head off the vehicle, and that's so I can just have a closer look at the ground to see if there are any tracks there. Unfortunately for us, it seems like if she has left this young male in this block, it's not the friendliest block for off-roading. Lots of small monkey orange, Makes a terrible racket when you have to drive through it. Confident that Sindila, that young male leopard, is in this area. But for now, I think we're going to wait for it to get a little bit later in the day, and then we'll come back to check this area. But we'll slowly meander towards maybe the Arathusa Dam, see what's been happening around there. So any zoomies who are on the job, let me know if there's anything worth making our way down to the dam for. If not, I think we'll head further west and check the Marakele drainage line. So there's these big bumps here. Oh, with this cool weather, we haven't seen too many elephants for a while, so I'm hoping maybe we can find some of those. Where they're all headed to. Guys, I've just seen something in the distance. I'll have a quick look with my biners, see if it's worth having a further look at. It looks like someone is home. It is quite a long way away. There's Scotty's got it. I can just see what looks to be a vulture's head popping out. You see, there we go. You can see that vulture there sitting in the nest. We're quite a long way away, so it's difficult to discern whether it's I think it is an adult. Just judging by the size and from the distance. A nice big nest like that's going to be a white-backed vulture. They would not have been enjoying the cool weather too much. Not too many thermals for them to ride. Always good to stop and listen and let the bush let you know what's around. At the moment, unfortunately, all I can hear is some magpie shrikes in the distance. So we shall trundle on. How the bush has changed in the last couple of months. definitely. For me personally, I love the dry season. The colors, the sunsets with all the dust and smoke in the air, and tracking's a little bit easier. And your visibility is better. You're able to see further in the bush, which gives you better opportunities to find animals. Hi, Ruthie from Michigan. Welcome on the Sunset Safari, Ruthie. Ruthie would like to know if there's been any news on quarantine male leopard. Ruthie, not since we heard from Andrew at Cheetah Plains. There hasn't been any further news or sightings of them that I've heard of. But I'm sure he's licking his wounds and recovering quite well. Afternoon, mobile stations. The Levy station's mobile in the west. So you heard me there just chatting on the Game Drive channel. I think we're the first people across and out on Arathusa, just making sure, see if they have got any updates from during the day for us. Because we always try to work as a team, and we try to communicate so we can all have better sightings. Hi, John Boy, welcome on Sunset Safari. John Boy says, how about some painted wolves or hyenas this afternoon? For those of you who don't know, painted wolf is another name for the African wild dog, which happens to be my favorite animal. So far, I've heard nothing about that pack. They crossed north of us, and I haven't heard any reports of tracks or anything so far. As with the hyenas, we are not sure where which den is active at the moment. With those hyena cubs now being at that age where they start wandering with the adults, and the only time I've seen one pregnant hyena since then, it's difficult to say. We're not quite sure where the hyenas are, which den they're using at the moment. We've checked all the normal spots, no luck so far, but hopefully they come back to one of the regular dens or we find the new den. But we are not quite sure where they are, or where the wild dogs are for that matter. But John Boy, I agree, I could definitely do with some painted dogs in my life this afternoon. Pamela, welcome on the Sunset Safari with us, Pamela. I hope you're enjoying riding along with us so far. Pamela would like to know, with those vultures' nests being so exposed, do other raptors raid those nests? Not really, Pamela, not that I've ever heard of. I think the pure size of a vulture, even when it's born, is quite daunting for a lot of raptors. Also, I've never seen or heard of other raptors raiding the vultures' nests. Not to say it's not possible, but very highly unlikely. We do have some elephant tracks here on the road, but they look like they're from quite a lot earlier. We'll see where they're going. Oh. Hello, boys and girls. You can see they're nice and dark this afternoon, and it tells you that it is still quite nippy, and they've extended their fur and getting that air to be trapped between their fur and body, giving them a nice little insulative blanket and keep them a little bit warmer. And coming towards the end of the rutting season, I did hear some males this morning making an awful racket, but it definitely does seem to be calming down a bit. So we'll leave them to move off into the longer grass there and to enjoy their afternoon. And we're going to go back to Commander Bond, see what he's been up to, and see if the good commander has been able to find any.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm sorry about our signal difficulties. This time I really have no idea what happened. I'll be on to Eugene when we get home and have a word with him. Just up ahead there, I want you to see if you can see what we can see. Don't zoom in yet, Andrew. Let's just see. That's pretty much the view that we've got. And that's pretty much the view that any predator would have of what we're looking at. Right, now let's zoom in a bit and you can see. Now I spotted those animals that we can now see. You can see them. I spotted them from this junction here, and had they been Nyala or had they been Impala, they would have been much harder to spot. So I'm sure you can see by now that they are in fact Burchell's zebra or plain zebra, and what we're going to do is make our way slowly towards them, and then let's talk about how obvious they are, because a zebra to the human eye is really a pretty obvious thing to be able to see. It looks like the stallion on top of the termite mound, youngster off to the left. I just don't want to frighten them, so I'm going to go quite slowly. Now Andrew, as they move off to the right, can you try and get them moving through the and just look how the light does play off their coats as they move through the vegetation. This is a big herd of zebra for this area. It's not quite a Serengeti sized, but it is a decent sized herd. So, or an elephant, which is grey. I mean, grey is the most camouflage colour to be. Rangers like us or guides tend to wear khaki because that's the tradition. But khaki actually is not the most unobvious colour out here. Apparently a pale blue or grey is the most difficult colour to see out here. Now you can see as they move through the trees there and through the vegetation, there is a slight blurring of the light as they move. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I think that is why they are striped. So they walk through the bush at night time. Their predators are colorblind. They see very, so they don't see that black and white contrasted with the colors here. But they will see the contrast in terms of dark and light. But when they move past bushes and past trees, you can see how the light plays off them, and I think that must be quite confusing if you're hunting them in the dead of the night. They're very fast, and so they really only need a sort of split second of advantage for them. There are all sorts of weird and wonderful theories about zebra stripes, including various thoughts that they have to do with thermoregulation, which I'm just really struggle to buy. Apparently there is some form of convection current that is set up around the black and white stripes, but I'm not sure if that's not chance. What's interesting is that no other animal has evolved this strategy. Whatever it's for, no other animal out here has evolved it. And black and white are two of the colors that you just don't find out here. If you look at the picture there that Andrew's filming, you can see that there is no white in it at all, except for that on the zebra, and likewise the black. If they weren't that color, difficult to see through there. The tail, just like on a horse, is wisping away at the flies. And while a zebra doesn't have a no herbivores have got the enzymes required to digest cellulose, which is the structural material that grass is made of, but they do have bacteria in their stomachs that produce the enzyme that they then digest, and so derive nutrition from this grass. So for a non-ruminant, there's no limit to the amount of food that they, if it's not nutrient rich, whereas a ruminant is a very beneficial structure or strategy to have if the grass is good, because you can extract maximum nutrients from it. But when it's dry like this, it's rather better to be a hindgut fermenter, where you can just process more and more and more food. So I'm glad we've seen some zebra finally. They have now disappeared off our reserve, which is sad, but we'll get them back. Lots of little tracks of nighttime animals, tracks of civet, plenty of civets, lots of white-tailed mongoose tracks every morning when we come out here and see the sort of freshly laid news from the bush that is on the road every day. Sure I can identify. Pretty sure that one of you lot will be able to. You seem to be exceptional at that sort of thing. Yeah. Let's break a piece off. Try not to assault myself. There's a kudu behind me. Can you see it? Straight behind me.
Oh, shit.
Now compare the color on that kudu. You see it, Andrew?
Yes.
Compare the color on that kudu compared with the color on the zebra, and how much easier the zebra was to see than that kudu. Really does beg the question as to what those stripes are for. So here is this tree. There's a bit of a clue here. Now if you look at it at that angle, it's got thorns on it that are what we call dehiscent. I think that's what they call them. So they're in pairs. See that? It's got quite soft leaves, very, very velvety leaves. They're quite young, but I think I know what this tree is now. I'm going to have a guess, and then I'm going to check it out. So I'm going to let you stew for about 5 minutes, and then I'll tell you what I think it is, and you can tell me if I'm correct or not. I'm going to leave it on the dashboard as we go, and you can have a look. the wild dogs suddenly appear, that will no doubt blow off the dashboard. Right, plugged in again. I can hear Nicholas speaking to me. Buffalo. Got some buffalo over there. I'm sure these are some of the same ones that we saw earlier this morning at the Buffalo's Hook waterhole. Lily from Dayton Children's Hospital, hello and welcome. Your age just 11 years. It's lovely to have you here with us, and thank you for your question. You want to know, and it's a good question this, you want to know, do zebras make the same sound as horses do? Well, the answer is no. They make a very different sound, and in fact their sound gives them the sort of onomatopoeic name, the Afrikaans name for them, or the Afrikaans name for an extinct cousin of theirs called the quagga. And I'm going to try and make it for you now. So where a horse will go well, the buffalo didn't like that very much. A zebra will go how's that, Andrew?
Very good.
Yes, Andrew thinks that was an excellent rendition. He is shaking with laughter, so I think he might be laughing. The buffalo are staring at me with complete disdain. So that sound, quagga, it sounds like they're saying, apparently it sounds like they're saying quagga, quagga, quagga. And that's the sound that a zebra makes. They do snort exactly like horses do, though. Yeah, no, he's not pleased with us at all. I suspect he stood up because a little breeze has blown from us to him. And so they're just a little bit wary as soon as they smell the human scent. Lovely dust there in the light. Right, well, as we watch these, over to Brent, who's apparently found some musky smelling antelope. I'll let you guess what those are, and he'll show you what they are. So over to Brent.
Welcome back, everyone. While you've been with the commander, we've managed to come across a nice group of waterbuck. They've just moved a little bit into the thickets there. I'm just going to move forward a skosh once we've had a good look at that rump. You can see that very distinct rump that looks like she sat on a freshly painted toilet seat. Told you we found a musty smelling antelope, and that is very correct. We can actually smell waterbuck. It's one of the few animals that has a very distinct odor out here. Very difficult to describe, but it's an oily, musty odor. There we go. She's going to turn for us, and that's from a very specific gland that they have on the back of their neck. Group of goats. Very musty smelling animals, sort of a very goat-like smell. It's all caused by a very specialized gland they have on the back of their neck that excretes an oily substance that almost acts like a waterproofing. And when you see them grooming, you'll often watch them put their nose there and then try to spread it over different parts of their body. Let me just try and move forward a little bit, we might see a few more. There we go. So although they're called waterbuck, and you often find them around water, it is not uncommon to find them quite a long way from water, but they do enjoy the areas around water. So here we're in the drainage line that's below Arathusa Dam. So although waterbuck as well, so it's a nice little evolutional development that enables them in times and very dry times to swap from being completely dependent on the grass species and browse a few different species as well. Not so much like an impala that can do 50-50. It doesn't really make a difference to the impala. Waterbuck obviously prefer the grazing, but they can browse if need be in times of stress. So, unlike a lot of the animals we find around the edge of the water, like Inyala or Kudu, which we find up on the crests, that have that sort of very loose non-territorial system where they only compete for females when they're in estrus, waterbuck have a very solid territorial system. So, and that is held throughout the year, unlike impala, where that after the rut, the territories become a little bit blurred, and the males tend to be a lot more tolerant and are very heavily defended against other males that will move in. So obviously the best territories that have the most females are held by the biggest and strongest males, and the other males will have sort of slightly not so great territories on the peripheries, and then the guys who really can't handle, or too young or too old or not aggressive, will be tolerated So those big dominant males will tolerate, especially younger groups of younger bachelor herds, but they will still, if they show any inkling of making a move on the ladies, they'll definitely be chased out. Oh, we've got a question from John in California. Hi, John. Welcome on the Sunset Safari, John. John says he's heard that lions don't like waterbuck because that gland can taint the meat. I've heard that myself, John, but I think if they have a choice, maybe they won't eat if they sort of got lots of choice. But I have seen lions kill and eat waterbuck when they're hungry, and even when they're not so hungry. Maybe it's a thing that's developed in certain areas. Probably one of the stranger things I have seen when it comes to a predator killing a waterbuck is I saw 2 male cheetah take down an adult male waterbuck, which is huge for animals of their size. The carcass there. Maybe the meat started getting tainted. I'm not sure. I think if an animal is under stress, they will sort of suck up and bite through that sort of foul taste to gain the necessary protein. But I have heard that before, that lions don't particularly like waterbuck meat. But then again, I have seen them eat it on numerous occasions. Such a beautiful afternoon. Heidi from North Carolina. Welcome on Sunset Safari, Heidi. Heidi says, are all these waterbuck females? Doesn't the male have large, beautiful horns? That is correct, Heidi. As far as I haven't seen any males or young males with this group, but the male does have large, beautiful horns. And I've got a question for you guys out there. Those large, beautiful horns are an emblem for a game reserve we may or may not be sitting in. So why don't you guys tell me which game reserve in this area? For those of you who might be new and haven't watched a lot of the safaris, what I'll do is I'll show you a picture quickly before we move on of those big, beautiful horns. So those, you can send your answers to questions@WildEarthTV, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Even better than me showing you a picture of a big male waterbuck. I think the commander has been doing some super secret spy work, and he might be able to show you something a little bit better than what's in my book. So we're going to cross over to Commander Bond and see what he's been up to.
Welcome back, everybody. I believe Brent had some waterbuck that he was showing you, but that there wasn't a male in sight. And so here is a big bull waterbuck. He's a magnificent to our right, but he's in the glare of the sun, so we'll keep looking at this one. The emblem of the Sabi Sands, not sure why. Very beautiful antelope though. He's a stunning bull. Interestingly nowhere near water. He's in his prime, that one. Andrew, I don't know if you want to swing around, try and get the other one there. I don't really wish to look at the rear end of a waterbuck, as pretty as the rear end. There's a big bull off here. You see him there, Andrew?
Yes.
Behind a bush there. Shall I try and sneak forward? Yeah, I'm just going to sneak a little bit forward. Okay.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and now the other bull is charging across to meet the rest of the herd. I think what the story is probably here, that we have a couple of young bulls who've yet to be thrown out of the herd. Otherwise not so much. So I'm sure that's why that big bull that we're looking at now is tolerating the slightly smaller ones who are around him. I think there's the one we were looking at earlier, and there's even another one in there. Today seems to be waterbuck afternoon. Long shaggy coats, which are very unusual for this area. None of the rest of the antelope have them. Could do a little bit in winter time, but the rest really fairly short haired animals. Maybe an adaptation to the need to run into water. That's why they're called waterbuck. They tend to charge for the water when they are threatened by predators. But I'm not convinced that that's a good enough explanation. Did you see that? Did you get that, Andrew? So that buck, the big one, the big bull, turned towards the little one that we saw earlier, or the younger one, and he obviously knows exactly who's boss, so he turned around immediately and showed submissive behavior. Females might be an estrus. Season for round the first rains, which will be in November at some stage.
Oh, that's nice.
That's beautiful. Very nice. Those are the two young bulls looking longingly after the herd of females that have been monopolized by the big bull. Don't worry, fellows, your time will come, I hope. Not easy being a young antelope bull. You've got to fight for every opportunity you might have. You don't just phone a girl up and take her on a date, you've got to have a big fight. And waterbuck, I think, if I'm not mistaken, waterbuck are one of the few antelope that do fight fairly regularly to the death. Most of the rest won't. Most of them will bash each other. I mean, impala might. It's possible that they could, and kudu certainly lock their horns fairly regularly and will die. Yes. Beautiful light on the edge of that Pterocarpus rotundifolius, or round-leaf teak leaves. It is a crystal clear afternoon. On Twitter, you want to know if their horns will grow for their entire lives. Thank you for your question. The answer is yes, probably. They certainly get bigger and bigger the older they get. Horns are often a very good way to age antelope, and so I would say yes, they do. They'll probably slow down and rather get wider rather than longer as they get older. The older ones tend to have more splayed horns. But yes, they will keep growing. Okay, I think that we will move along now and see what else we can see. We've come now to the southeastern boundary. That's the little corner you saw by a lion the other day. Andrew has just about recovered from that. He slept through the night for the first time last night, which was excellent. I am actually joking about that, in case you were wondering. Beautiful waterbuck sighting there. Nowhere near any water. Oh, let us. This bush, if I'm not very much mistaken, if there are any answers, I'll just wait and see if there have been any answers. But I'll be amazed if there have been. We have one. Ellen in New Jersey, thank you very much for your efforts. You said, is it an acacia? No, it is not, Ellen. You can see the decusate thorns, meaning the sort of right-angled position pairs of thorns, are not characteristic of acacias. It is in fact something called Catenaregum spinosa, or the I think I may have forgotten the common name. Yes, it'll come back to me. But Catenaregum spinosa is the botanical name, and they grow very straight, make very nice walking sticks out of the branches. Perhaps. So that's Catenaregum spinosa. The common name will come to me at some stage during the afternoon, probably at a highly inappropriate time. I think it has something to do with a pear, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe those of you on the interwebs can Google Catenaregum spinosa and find out the English name. Now you can see how crystal clear the air is today. Everything is all sort of in sharp relief. Clouds are contrast against the sky, as are the trees, and you only get skies like this in the winter time. We don't get them in summer. In summer they stay fairly burnt out. The Steenbok, Andy. I'm just going to try and see if we can't get this little move with the Steenbok. I promise we can't see you. Now that little Steenbok is called a Steenbok because apparently they're called stonebuck because they like to stand like stones when they are trying to hide from predators. So often they will lie very close to predators. The other day we had an incident with a pride of and eat it, and then suddenly from nowhere little Steenbok shot up from about 10 feet away. Clearly had been lying there in terror for many hours. Now you might lose our signal here, so once again I apologize if you do, but I'm sure Brent will tell you something fascinating if you do. We're going off to try and check a water hole not too far from here. See what might be drinking there. There was nothing at the one that I lost you at before. Got them, Andrew.
Yeah.
We've got two more Steenbok here, a little pair. I'm not going to move the car to get a better view. Kelly on Twitter, thank you for your question. You want to know if waterbuck exhaust each other. Death would come as a result of a piercing from one of those rapier-like horns. I'm sure the fatigue would play a major role in it though as well. So Steenbok normally exist in pairs that are, I think they're lifelong bonds, and they'll live in a territory together, and they'll mark it by dung and urine, and then within the territory, it's quite interesting, they cover up the dung with their front feet, which is an interesting behavior that's designed to sort of help conceal them from predators, so predators don't know exactly where they are. Now those pairs are not often seen together like we've just seen them. They stay in visual contact, but a Steenbok strategy of predator avoidance is to try and remain, as opposed to using the strategy that an impala uses, which is of course to stay in numbers so that you can see and your chances of detecting a predator are that much higher. So the Steenbok will stay in visual contact but will hardly ever be as close as they are there together. Their whole strategy is predicated on staying No, Jenny, as I said, is that Catanarigum spinosa a prickly pear? No, it's not a prickly pear. A prickly pear is a cactus, so not an indigenous species. I will eventually remember it. Of course, may have nothing to do with the pear when I do eventually. Djuma on Twitter, the answer is I don't think it's a mountain pomegranate. The Catanarigum, unless there may have been a name change. You know, there are often
welcome back, guys. Sorry about that. It seems like the grim. Welcome back with Scott and myself. While we're here, we've got a really beautiful tree. James and I were actually having a discussion the other day about what trees we've seen leopards in. And I said, well, I'd never seen a leopard in this particular tree that is in front of us. And he says he actually has. Seen a leopard in that tree before. It's a beautiful tree, quite distinct. Always got a very twisted stem, and it's green throughout the year. So we're going to get Scotty to show you the tree. There it is. I'm going to have a quick walk underneath that tree to look for something quickly, but see if I can find what I'm looking for. Nope, unfortunately not, so we'll have to check the next one of them. The hashtag Safari Live if you're on Twitter. So we've gone for a big loop through Arathusa. Unfortunately, it's been a bit quiet, but we're going to make our way back to where we had that last track of what's probably shadow, and have another look in that area. There's been a bit of skullduggery out there today. I asked you a question and James told you the answer. So the emblem of the Sabi Sands is the male waterbug. And the original warden, a guy by the name of Harry Kirkman, in the area where his house used to be in the southern Sabi Sands, there were incredibly large amount of waterbuck in that area, and so he decided it was a fitting emblem for the reserve. So Harry Kirkman's quite a funny character. His Shanghai name was Maliliwan, which means eyebrows. And if you guys want to have a little chuckle, I seriously suggest having a Google of Harry Kirkman. See if you can find a picture of him, and you will never have seen bigger eyebrows than that in your life. So that's how he got his Shangaan name. And interestingly, in the south and eastern sections where he used to work many years ago, there was one of the up-and-coming Kruger tuskers, tusker elephants that used to come into that area, and he was also named Maliliwan because for an elephant, he had very prominent eyelashes rather than eyebrows, but he was named Maliliwan after Harry Kirkman. So we are now on the Arathusa airstrip. I was hoping that there was going to be something here, but it is apart from a few starlings. Let me rephrase, one starling that I can, oh no, there's 3 starlings and some lapwings. You can see how beautiful the sky is. It's really fluffy marshmallow clouds. So we're gonna head back to Jamesy, see what he was done before the gremlins climbed into his aerial, and we will go check that area where we think Shadow might be, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more luck a little later. Don't forget, no cheating and asking James for the answer of that tree. I will be told I have spies everywhere.
Wendy is going to cop a severe beating from me later today when we get home, because the signal is very poor indeed today. I'm not sure what's happened. It may, in her defense, be something to do with the stresses of being driven around the bush at 100 miles an hour. We stopped here and we found 2 beautiful impala rams coming down to drink. And it's just a very pretty little scene, this, with the reflection of the clouds and the sky and the water. And so we wanted to show that to you. Off in the distance I can hear a number of oxpeckers calling, and they will be on some kind of antelope. And otherwise the bush is still in a very kind of midday space of relaxation and soporific atmosphere. And just as the sun starts to go down now, things will liven up. The birds will start to call a bit more. The animals may well become a lot more active. And it's almost like the world starts to breathe in again. It's taken a big breath out as the heat built a little bit during the day. And then as the heat starts to dissipate and the light starts to polarize, so it feels like nature here is inhaling again and is creating an atmosphere of anticipation. So we're going to drive down around here. I suspect quite strongly that Wendy is going to decide to ignore you again as soon as we move from where we are now. So if she does, I'm very sorry about that. We're going to carry on here and then further off to the west again to another waterhole, just to see what we can see there. And for those of you who are interested, before I drive down off this wall, that bush that we saw is called the spiny bone apple. So not a pear at all, an apple. Spiny bone apple. Catanarigum spinosa. I'd love to tell you that I remembered it, but I in a book while you were gone. Let it never be said that I am not truthful with you. try not to bounce Andrew off the back. Now, it was round about this time yesterday that I set off on my little walk. It was a very similar atmosphere to this, and I found her draped over a termite mound, just soaking up a bit of the sun. It was a bit cooler than it is now, and so the animals were out in the sun, just trying to absorb some of the rays. And interestingly, there have been quite a few snake tracks along the ground. In fact, there's one in front of us now. Andrew, are you?
I'll get it up there.
Do you think you can get it up there in the sun there? How's that? There we go, that's quite nice. Right, I'm just going to get out quickly. Is this alright?
Perfect.
So you can see the way the snake is moving, like this, but actually moving that way, moving away and then away down that way. And you can tell because of the way the sand has been pushed. So a snake moves like my hand is moving now, but obviously it needs to push. So where it pushes, so you will see the direction that it's moving. So it pushes off like that and pushes off like that. So we know that it's moving that way. And there have been a lot of snake tracks today, mainly because it's cool, the atmosphere is cool, and so to be in the sun for a snake is very advantageous. Remember that for a cold-blooded or ectothermic animal, or poikilothermic, I'm not sure which term is the most correct these days, it's very important to maintain, if you want your metabolism to sun and maintain some form of body temperature. And so the reptiles on a day like this, when it's the sort of ambient temperature is cooler than normal, they'll come out into the sun, especially in the winter time. A lot of the reptiles here in South Africa don't hibernate. But they will go into sort of temporary hibernation and then come out when it's a bit hotter like this. In fact, there are no African animals that I know of that will hibernate at all, but quite a few that will go into a form or a lower state. And it's
How is it, Londas? Oh, welcome back, guys. Seems like the gremlins are really on James today. Or he's just being lazy and I've got to do all the work. But we apologize for that. So we've just come off the end of the airstrip and we're checking an area that I think I've only checked about 3 times since I've been here, which is our boundary has moved through. She might loop back into this area. She is quite fond of it, and move back around to where we think she's left Sindile. So we're going to go slowly down here, just checking for tracks. So Scotty and I were actually having quite an interesting conversation at that time. We're discussing birds that we've seen in the Sabi Sands in the different areas where we've worked. And the one we were discussing, we actually were discussing ostrich. And both Scott and I have seen an ostrich in the central Sabi Sands, and we actually think it's possibly the same ostrich because it was on bordering properties. So that's the wonderful thing about being in a system that's open to a vast wilderness, which is the Greater Kruger National Park. So you never know what might be there. So I hope you guys didn't cheat while you were away, and I hope you found out what that tree was all by yourself. So I just saw it. I can't see it again now. Very strange little track. Yes, here we go, wild dog track. But it is quite old. But they are heading across the boundary, so they do look a little bit old, not from today. So, we shall trundle on. This is a wonderful late afternoon light at the moment. Double checking here where we've got these animal paths coming on and off the road to make sure we don't miss anything. Donna was asking whether it was a small baobab. I think I've inherited some of James's gremlins. But we're back with you now. As we were saying, Donna thought it might be a small baobab tree. It is not a baobab tree, and I have seen a leopard in a baobab tree. I was saying to the east of us is the most southern baobab in as far as I know, naturally occurring baobab in South Africa, and that is in the Kruger National Park, between a place called Chokwan and another place called Satara. But no luck on any tracks yet. So, apart from Shadow and her cub in this area, this is also an area that's frequented by Tingana. So first time I saw Tingana was in this area when he was lying up next to that aardvark hole. waiting patiently. Oxpeckers just shooting across, probably going to start heading back towards their roosts at the moment. Carefully, and then shot can also, if you can, show you that same tree we asked you, just a different individual. There it is, nice big one sticking out of the Combretum scrubland. That we think that Shadow might have moved into to hunt. So always worth just switching off, listening to the sounds of the bush, letting the animals know, letting the animals let us know if there's a predator around. So we're not only listening for alarm calls from your bigger antelope like impala, kudu, and bushbuck and nyala, but also from squirrels and even sometimes the tiniest little bird. There we go. You can see evergreen tree. That is the one we asked you a little bit earlier. Okay, I think from that other vehicle, so we'll continue on. Unfortunately, not today. So it seems things is quite quiet. This evening, the sunset safari. It has been beautiful though, but I think we are going to start slowly making our way back towards Djuma and see what we can find on that side of the world. Definitely one of my more favored bird species. Out of the family we see the African grey hornbill. Not quite as gaudy as the others, but still beautiful in itself. And their piping call is just one of the things that really reminds me that we are in the bushveld. And oh, off he goes. And I will definitely see if I can play the call for you. Here we go. Definitely one of my favorite calls to hear out in the bush. Very melodic piping. So not as gaudy and as pretty as a lot of the other hornbills we see. But I do really, really love that call. So we got a few answers in for that tree that we asked. No one's on it yet. No one's on the right track. We've had an ebony tree. I thought this one was going to be a bit easier for you guys. I'll give you guys a little bit longer to see if you can get it, but we might go see if we can find a really nice big one and stop there as well. Sorry about the bumps. There's some corrugations on this road that I'm trying to avoid. Oh, it's not a knobthorn either, guys. An evergreen tree. Let me give you a little clue. Thorn is in the name, or one of the names. It's got two names, two common names. No, false alarm. Leopard-like stump. Quite a few of those out here. Those very annoying stumps. Oh, it's not a sausage tree. Have I caught you guys? I thought you were getting smarter than this. So for those of you who might have joined us a little bit late, we've spotted a beautiful big green tree, and what sparked our discussion on it is that James and I were chatting about what different trees we'd seen leopards in, and I said I'd never seen a leopard in that particular tree, but James said in a very big individual of that tree species he had seen a leopard before. So very interesting. About to cross back. We've done quite a big loop in Arethusa and we haven't seemed to find anything particularly fresh or worth following up on. We've crossed back into Djuma. We're actually on Djuma's southern boundary now. We're going to head down towards Twin Dams, see what's happening in that area. Hopefully we find some tracks of something coming from the south into the north. We have had a thorny bush. It does have thorns, but it's definitely not a bush. Guys, while I'm on the boundary, I'm just going to pick up the speed a little bit. definitely not, guys. Buffalo thorn, not nearly as a big a tree as that. Shiny leaves on the buffalo thorn, where this is quite dull leaves. So, no, not there yet. That is an acacia. I've given you two very important clues. That is, it's got thorns. Maybe let me give you an even bigger clue. You can make fire, or you can not make fire. It has a very flammable oil in its seed. We have a correct answer. It is a torchwood tree, or a green thorn. That is the tree we were discussing now. Well done to Raisa, who has got it correct. A torchwood or green thorn. Balanite. False alarm, I thought I saw some tracks there. We're going to cross over to James, see what he's been up to. I definitely think I can smell the distinct sort of farmyard smell coming from his general direction. So let's go see what James has got.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Wendy. We found a beautiful scene there, and an equally beautiful beefalo just to the right of us. Unfortunately, he has decided that while Brent was telling you his final story, he would go off and graze. So I'm going to try and drive around the side of him. He's a particularly large example of a buffalo. 800 to 900 kilograms, which is a vast mass. Almost as big as a black rhino. Ooh, look at that face. Beefy. Isn't he great? Look at his torn ears that tell the story of many years of trying to escape predators and running through the thorns. And there are quite a few of them around here now. And that is a stunning picture of a buffalo. Now you can see the red color on the top of his horns there. Andrew, if you want to just... No, yeah, you can. In fact, you can slide across here, just in front of him. Just zoom out there. Yup. Keep coming. Keep coming. Yes. Now there on there. Can you see that piece of tree there that I'm looking at?
Just yeah.
Yeah. Zoom in there. That is a piece of silver cluster leaf tree, and we've been seeing quite a few around here, normally on bigger trees than this. The red color on the front of the horns comes from. They bash away at these trees and rub them. So I think they get very itchy on the top of those horns, and they also they don't mark territory so much as just indicate their presence. Look at the redness on top of that one's horns. Sorry, Andrew, I'm messing you around a bit here. And that redness comes from the tannin. Right. I think we've seen quite a lot of buffalo today. So we are not too far from Treehouse Dam, and I suspect that they've come, and we know that there aren't any hyenas around there at the moment, but that's where Shadow was last night, and maybe we just haven't seen her tracks coming back onto Djuma. So that's what we're going to try and do now as we head off towards that sort of area. The area is called Zoe's Road. Is the daughter of one of the owners of Djuma.